Hello guys, David here. I'm just doing the London recap this morning. So I had one no tag on EU. It was very clean price action this morning, to be honest. So I'll break it down on it from the start of the daily, just to remind us where we are. So we understand in the daily we're in the swing pullback phase. Obviously we had the bearish chalk, and since then you can see we have supply being respected. So we've mitigated the EQ, so it's possible the pullback's complete at this point. However, all of these POIs were already mitigated, so it's quite likely the price is going to come down to at least these wicks. So yeah, sells make sense to target that. Yeah, so on the daily, I would say over the next week, a couple of weeks, probably see more downside, but obviously we can take advantage of smaller moves within that on the M15. Now, coming into session this morning, see 4 hour swing and internal are bearish, so that's my swing break, and then I just counted all these as internal. That's what I'm doing at the minute. It doesn't really matter. You can count them as swing if you want. I just counted them as internal at the moment. So you can see decent amount of bearish momentum, price making lower lows and lower highs, and then we come into this flip zone here. You can see it flip those wicks, and then you can see it's pretty clean inside bar. So this morning was most interested in looking for buys, because obviously after this aggressive sell off yesterday that there's a decent chance the price is going to want to pull back into supply before potentially continuing lower. So obviously in anticipation of the pullback, you ideally want to see a sweep of liquidity and a bullish 4 hour chalk, both of which we got this morning. So sweep liquidity, bullish 4 hour chalk, that's a decent sign for me the price is going to pull back into sort of at least the previous range, and we could of course see the swing pullback, as I am sort of viewing this as one swing leg, so we could pull the whole way back up here and then continue lower. So yeah, main idea this morning was to look for buys, sort of following the mitigation of this 4 hour supply on the sweep and bullish chalk. So just take the M15 back to where it was sitting this morning. So this is pre-London. This is one of those sort of tricky scenarios where technically we got a break structure where price lows below the low there. However, we swept the low originally with this sort of wick, pull back, and then we failed to close below the wick. So ideally for me to be confident that this is a swing break structure with a bearish trend intact, I would want to see it close below that wick. But technically, the way we map structure, it was a break structure. But personally, I was sort of favoured buys, and I was hoping to see this high go and to potentially look for longs. So if we play it on, you can see lots of bullish momentum at the start of session and a bullish break structure, exactly what we wanted to see. And on the 4 hour, that coincided with the bullish 4 hour chalk. So we've had the sweep, we've had the bullish 4 hour chalk, and the M15 is switch bullish as well. So at this point, I am basically all systems go looking for buys. Now, in terms of buys within the range, we obviously have these sell to buy wicks that flip this little zone here, so it's valid supply, not the best, didn't sweep, no inducement, and obviously the preferable zone would have been down here at the extreme, as obviously it's the last point that has to hold. Now, I sort of use the 1 hour a bit in my trading these days, and I was personally had my 1 hour zone drawn like this here. So because of that, I was sort of happy to keep an eye on these sell to buy wicks. But what I wanted to see a super clean entry model before looking to get involved. We had this supply here, had a bit of lid in front of it, but personally, when you see that bullish momentum, we're anticipating the 4 hour pullback from the 4 hour demand. I have no real interest in looking for sells from there, to be honest. I'd want to see at least a bearish M15 chalk on it as this counter M15 trend, and you see we come into it, and it was sufficient to be a catalyst for the pullback. So yeah, if you want to be super aggressive, it's valid to look for an entry in there, but it's not something I'd really recommend to people, particularly if you're new. So we're pulling back, obviously just waiting for my alert to go off on either of these POIs, and then bang, we came in. No strong liquidation in the M15 because obviously this low, it didn't take out any high, but obviously it was a low. So at this point, I was happy to look for an entry on the M5. Drop down to the M5. So you can see on the M5, we did have a strong liquidation. You can see we had chalk, and then the low got swept. Now you can see the way the price action formed. We wicked the low there, so the PBL was here. So even though price continued lower, this was still the supply that I wanted to see fail. You can see we had strong liquidation. You can see we just mitigated that M15 wicks, and then you can see V-shaped recovery, which is exactly what you want to see. So obviously now just want to, we've had the potentially the strong liquidation if we get the PBL fail, we've had the mitigation, so now I just want to see the PBL fail and the chalk, and ideally a V-shape. So see, we get the reaction, another reaction there, and then reaction fails, still no chalk, so still no entry. And then next candle, we got the bullish chalk. So as soon as this high went, I set my order here. Again, the extreme is already mitigated, the flip didn't sweep. I just sort of covered this, so rather than just take the inside bar, I just sort of covered this whole candle here, just in case price wanted to sweep that inside bar. Would have afforded me a bit more protection. 4 pip stop, obviously fixed 5R, which was there. Again, very high probability framework, very happy to be aggressive with this, and unfortunately price didn't pull back. And yeah, had it mitigated, it would have hit profit target at this stage. So yeah, no tag there, very nice entry, very nice framework. In the M1, there was no entry. You can see we had the little chalk here, but no strong liquidation. Yeah, there could potentially be a strong liquidation here if you wanted to be very fussy, depending on how these candles formed. Let me see. So that's our pullback there. Might have to drop down to the 15S here. See how this candle forms. Yeah, so there was technically strong liquidation, because you can see we took the low and then took the high. So if this low goes, then it's strong liquidation in the M1, which it did. So yeah, if you want to be sort of very aggressive, you could say there's a strong liquidation there, but it's not the clearest. And generally, you know, when you want to look for a liquidation, you want to see sort of a more significant sort of pullback. So obviously, the more significant the pullback, the more likely it is that there's going to be a decent amount of liquidity behind it. But you could, if you want to be sort of very aggressive, view that as a strong liquidation. But then you could argue as well, again, it's not the cleanest, but you could argue that the PBL in fact held. Let's just see out of interest how this forms. So say that is, take that whole range as your M1 PBL. So obviously if price pushes back in this and then pushes lower. No, yeah, PBL did fail, so was a potential entry there if you wanted to be sort of aggressive with your liquidation, but price didn't pull back into the entry on it and just continued higher. So yeah, there was a potential entry there. I didn't have that in the markups, but yeah, the entry model was there if you wanted to look for it, but no tag on in the extreme. So that's AU, no tag in the 5 entry. AU then, let's just do a quick recap of the daily. So as I keep saying, swinging internals bearish. Highly likely we're going to push lower over the medium term, equal lows to target that are going to get smashed to likely fuel the next leg. But as we've seen over the last sort of couple of months, we've had a lot of false signals, a lot of times that you sort of had the bearish shock that you thought we were going to follow through, but price just sort of keeps just ranging away here, which it's not ideal trading conditions. We have had this sweep of liquidity and a bearish shock there. So it is possible the price will follow through from here and run these lows, but the way it's been going at the minute, I wouldn't have too much confidence, to be honest. We could just keep ranging. 4R then. 4R is swing is bullish. This is the bullish leg, and then this is obviously the pullback where the internal switch bearish to facilitate that. I thought it was a 4R IBOS. So yeah, we made another internal lower low yesterday when price closed below here, and then we sort of pulled back into the supply. So possible price could push lower to here. Possible this minor sweep liquidity could be sufficient to fuel the next bullish leg. But then, as we always say, multi-time frame analysis is your friend. Yes, we got the close above here in the 4R, meaning this low is strong, but on the daily we know it's a sweep liquidity, so this low is weak on the daily. So it is entirely possible that supply could keep holding and we could push lower. So yeah, nothing massively clear in terms of which direction we're going to go in the 4 hour, to be honest. And then on the M15, it's coming into session. My swing is bearish, so that was my swing leg. This was the pullback, and anticipating maybe we might see another bearish leg. We mitigated the supply, which is sort of the extreme unmitigated supply within the range. You can see everything above was mitigated. So very possible that the trend will continue from there. You can see we swept liquidity here and pushed up. So just keeping an eye on this internal range that perhaps we could come in here and continue higher. You can see we have the sort of 4 hour supply up here. Had a bearish shock, so it was valid to look for sells within the M15 supply to potentially play the next leg to the downside. But as you can see, at session open, pretty much just swept liquidity and then rocketed to the upside. So this was the fake shock, was just to build liquidity, which again makes complete sense because the M15 POI had no lid. So generally, you're going to see a strong liquidation before it plays out. So the no lid and the need for strong liquidation would have sort of made me cautious to look for sells from there. But again, it's valid to do so following the M15 shock. You see, we pushed up, got it close above, so we have another IBOS, and then just kept pushing up and didn't quite mitigate the POI. And obviously now we've come into the 4 hour supply. M15 has technically switched bullish, but again, it's possible that the M15 only switched bullish to mitigate the 4 hour supply. So wouldn't be welded to a bullish bias in the M15 just yet. Would ideally want to see the 4 hour supply feel. So nothing there for me, but again, noting that all these supply zones were mitigated, once this one went, it's very likely that price is going to sort of blast through these here and switch bullish. So yeah, as I said, could have considered a buy from there. All these are already mitigated. Had a decent amount of bullish momentum following sweep liquidity. Personally, I would have been reluctant to look for sells at that point. And yeah, eventually we did switch bullish. But now we've mitigated 4 hours play, so it'll be interesting to see what happens next. No point even dropping down to the A1, there was no, or the M1, sorry, there was nothing that didn't mitigate any M15 PY that I want to trade from, so there was nothing to see there. Yeah, EU is very nice this morning. Unfortunately, no tag, but it is what it is. Can't catch them all. And yeah, loving the M5. Them on a very clean time frame. I would encourage you to check it out if you're not really loving the M1. And yeah, if you have any questions around, just hit me up on Discord, and I will get back to you. Thanks very much, guys. Goodbye.